The grand hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 47 species sat in their seats, watching the massive screen at the center of the chamber. High Chancellor Vorn stood at the podium, his forearms spread wide as he spoke. "For 300 years we have watched them," Vorn said. His voice echoed through the hall. "We have studied them. We have feared them. And now we must stop them." The screen showed images of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, cities that stretched across entire continents. Then the images changed. Wars, explosions, soldiers fighting in mud and snow and sand, ships burning in their oceans, mushroom clouds rising into gray skies. "They call themselves humans," Vorn continued. "They have been fighting each other since they first learned to walk. They survived ice ages. They survived plagues that killed half their population. They survived weapons that could destroy entire cities. And each time, they came back stronger." Observer Mira sat in the upper gallery, writing in her journal. She was young for her species, barely 200 years old. Her job was to record history, and she knew she was watching something important. "They expand too fast," Vorn said. "In just 200 years, they have colonized 47 worlds. They do not follow our laws. They do not respect our borders. They do not fear us." He paused and looked around the chamber. "If we do not act now, they will consume the entire galaxy." The vote was quick. All 47 species raised their approval. War against humanity was now official. Fleet Admiral Torek approached Vorn after the session ended. He was a tall creature with gray skin and eyes that had seen many battles. "High Chancellor, are you certain about this?" "The humans have never attacked us." "They will," Vorn said. "It is in their nature. We strike first while we still can." Torek nodded slowly. He did not agree, but he was a soldier. Soldiers followed orders. 3 days later, a transmission was sent to Earth. Vorn appeared on every screen across human space. His image was broadcast to billions of people. "People of Earth," Vorn announced, "the Galactic Council has declared war upon your species. You have 72 hours to surrender all your colonies and submit to Council authority. Refuse, and you will face the full power of 47 united species. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Vorn sat back in his chair and waited for the panic to begin. On Earth, Ambassador Choi Nari was eating lunch when the message arrived. She was a small woman with tired eyes and gray hair tied back in a simple style. Her assistant rushed into the room, breathing hard. "Ambassador, the aliens. They declared war." Nari looked up from her noodles. She chewed slowly, swallowed, and wiped her mouth with a napkin. "Which ones?" The Galactic Council. All of them." "Ah." Nari nodded and returned to her food. "Forward it to the Defense Ministry. Mark it as medium priority." Her assistant stared at her. "Medium priority? They threaten to destroy us. They threaten to destroy us every few years." Nari shrugged. "Send the message. I need to finish lunch before my 2 o'clock meeting. Cross human space." The reaction was similar. News channels mentioned the declaration between weather reports and sports scores. A famous singer's new album received more attention than the threat of galactic war. People continued their daily lives without interruption. Vorn waited 3 days, then 4, then 5. No surrender came, no panic, no desperate pleas for mercy. His advisors grew nervous. "Perhaps the transmission failed," one suggested. "It did not fail," Vorn said through clenched teeth. "They are ignoring us." On the colony world of New Sol, Admiral Han Yuna gathered her officers for a briefing. She was a woman in her 50s, with short black hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. She looked at the report on her screen and frowned. "So these council people want a war," she said. "Does anyone remember them?" Captain Park Tae, her youngest officer, raised his hand. "Ma'am, they sent us a similar threat 6 months ago. We filed it with the others." The others. "We receive about 12 war declarations per year from various alien groups. Most never follow through." Admiral Han nodded slowly. "And this council, are they serious? They have assembled a fleet of 3,000 warships, ma'am. 3,000. Han considered this. That is somewhat serious, I suppose. Very well. Cancel my vacation and prepare the defense fleet. Let us see what these council people can do. Park Tae hesitated. Ma'am, shouldn't we alert the civilian population? Begin evacuations? Han looked at him with something close to pity. Captain, do you know what would happen if we announced an alien invasion? Panic, ma'am? No. Complaints. People would complain about traffic delays and canceled flights. They would ask if this means they still have to go to work. Humans do not panic, Captain. We adapt and we complain. It is our greatest strength. In the Galactic Council's war room, observer Mira continued her documentation. She had been studying humans for decades, and something about them fascinated her. They were not stronger than other species. They were not smarter. Their technology was impressive but not unique, yet every species that had encountered them spoke of them with fear. Why? She found her answer in their history. While other species evolved on peaceful worlds with stable climates, humans evolved on a planet that seemed designed to kill them. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, ice ages, their own weapons. They should have died 1,000 times. Instead, they built civilizations, Mira wrote in her journal. The Council believes humans have not responded because they are afraid. I believe they have not responded because they do not consider us a significant threat. We have made a terrible mistake. As the Council's fleet began its journey toward human space, Vorn smiled with confidence. He imagined human cities burning, their fleets destroyed, their species brought to heel. He had no idea what was coming. The humans had received the declaration of war. They had read it, discussed it briefly, and returned to their normal lives. Not because they were foolish, not because they were arrogant, but because, to humanity, war was not an extraordinary event. It was simply Tuesday. Fleet Admiral Torek stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the view screen. Before him lay the Kepler colony, a human mining world at the edge of their territory. 3,000 Council warships surrounded the planet, weapons ready, shields raised. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds, and yet something was wrong. Admiral, his sensor officer, reported, I am detecting human cargo ships still operating trade routes. Civilian transports are moving between stations. Mining operations continue as normal. Torek blinked his 3 eyes. They did not evacuate? No, Admiral. There is no sign of military preparation. No defensive formations. No weapon signatures. The officer paused. They are ignoring us. On the mining station below, 3 humans sat in a small control room eating breakfast. Park Jin was a large man with rough hands and a permanent frown. His wife, Yoon Soo, handled communications. Their son, Min Ki, monitored the mining equipment. The aliens are here, Soo said, looking at her screen. Lots of them. Jin chewed his toast slowly. They attacking? Not yet. Just floating there. Then they can wait. Jin reached for his coffee. We have quotas to meet. Torek gave the order to fire. Council ships unleashed a storm of plasma and energy beams at the mining station. Explosions lit up the darkness of space. Fire and debris scattered in all directions. When the smoke cleared, the station was damaged, but still standing. What? Torek stepped forward. Fire again. More weapons fired. More explosions. The station's outer shell cracked and burned. But the structure held. Inside, Jin spilled his coffee. He looked at the ceiling, then at his wife. Sue, call the insurance company. Already on it. She opened a channel while alarms blared around them. Yes, hello? I need to file a damage claim. Our station is under attack. No, not pirates. Aliens. Yes. I will hold. Min Ki was already at the repair console. Hull breach in Section 4. I can fix it in an hour. Make it 30 minutes, Jin said. And someone tell those aliens to stop shooting. They are ruining my morning. When Admiral Han Yun's defense fleet arrived 3 hours later, Torek felt relief. Finally, a proper battle. His 3,000 ships faced 600 human vessels. The numbers favored him 5-1. All ships attack formation, Torek commanded. Target their flagship. Standard engagement protocols. Captain Parkte stood beside Admiral Han on the human flagship. He studied the enemy formation and prepared his tactical recommendations. "Ma'am, I suggest we flank there." "No," Han said. "Perhaps a defensive position while we know?" "Then what is our strategy, ma'am?" Han looked at the view screen. Her face showed no fear, no excitement, just mild annoyance, like someone dealing with a traffic jam. "We fly directly at them." Ite stared at her. "Ma'am?" "Full speed. All ships. Directly at their center. And that is not a standard tactic." "Exactly." Han smiled slightly. "They have studied our military records. They expect patterns. They expect logic. They do not expect 600 ships flying straight into their formation like angry birds." "But ma'am, the casualties, Captain." Han turned to face him. "Do you know why humans win wars? Superior technology? Training resources? No, we win because we are willing to do things that make no sense. We charge when we should retreat. We fight when we should surrender. We survive when we should die." She turned back to the view screen. "The enemy expects a battle. We will give them chaos. All ships forward. Maximum speed." The human fleet charged. Torek watched in disbelief as 600 ships flew directly into his formation. No evasive maneuvers. No tactical positioning. Just a straight line into the heart of his fleet. "They're insane," he whispered. The battle lasted for hours. Human ships punched through council lines, firing in all directions. They rammed enemy vessels when their weapons failed. They ejected pilots who then fired personal weapons at passing ships. One human destroyer, engines destroyed, used its last momentum to crash into a council carrier. When it ended, Torek had lost 400 ships. The humans had lost 12. How? Torek asked no one. How is this possible? His tactical officer reviewed the battle data. "Admiral, their ships. They are built differently than ours. Our vessels use light materials for speed. Theirs use heavy armor. Our weapons barely penetrated their hulls." "Why would they build ships so heavy?" "Unknown, Admiral. But there is something else." The officer's voice trembled. "During the battle, we intercepted human communications. They were laughing." "Laughing?" "Yes, Admiral. They were telling jokes, complaining about missing dinner. One pilot asked if this counted as overtime pay. The officer looked at Torek with fear in his eyes. They were not afraid. They were not even excited. They were bored. On the planet's surface, Sergeant Li Wu led his squad through the colony streets. Council ground forces had landed, expecting easy victory against human civilians. They found something else. Wu was a man of 50 with scars on his face and hands that had held weapons for 30 years. He watched the alien soldiers advance with their energy weapons and shining armor. "Sergeant," one of his soldiers asked, "what do we do?" Wu raised his rifle. It was a simple weapon. Metal and gunpowder. Ancient by galactic standards. "We do what we always do," he said. "We fight. We survive. We win." The first shot echoed through the streets. Later, when the battle was over and council forces retreated, observer Mira reviewed the footage. She watched humans fight with weapons that should have been obsolete. She watched them refuse to surrender, even when surrounded. She watched them laugh and joke while facing death. In her journal, she wrote, "I've researched human history. They call their worst conflict World War II. 60 million of their own people died. They fought in frozen cities, in burning deserts, in jungles filled with disease. They ate rats. They burned their own homes rather than surrender them."
Ow.
She paused, her hand trembling. "They did this to each other. They did this to their own species. And now we have given them a common enemy." Mira closed her journal and stared at the stars. "What have we done?" High Chancellor Vorn slammed his fist against his desk. Reports covered every surface. Casualty numbers. Lost ships. Retreating fleets. Nothing was going according to plan. How? He demanded. How are they winning? We outnumber them 10-1. His advisors stood in silence. None had answers. We need more ships, Vorn declared. More species. More weapons. Contact every member of the council. Tell them to send everything they have. Within weeks, the largest military alliance in galactic history was assembled. 12 additional species joined the war. 15,000 warships gathered at the staging point. Soldiers numbered in the billions. Vorn looked at his armada and smiled. Let the humans try to stop this. Council's new strategy was simple. Blockade human colonies and starve them into surrender. 3 systems were surrounded. Trade routes were cut. Supply ships were destroyed. On the colony world of New Busan, Governor Shin Yuna called an emergency meeting. The Council's fleet blocked all access to the planet. No food shipments could arrive. No exports could leave. How long can we last? She asked her advisors. The current supplies, perhaps 3 months? Yuna nodded slowly. Then she smiled. 3 months? That is plenty of time, ma'am. Contact the farming districts. Tell them to increase production. Contact the fishing boats. Tell them to work double shifts. Contact the factories. Tell them to start making preserved food. But ma'am, the blockade stops ships from leaving and arriving. It does not stop us from growing our own food. Yuna stood and walked to the window. Outside, the alien fleet hung in the sky like angry stars. My grandmother survived a war. My mother survived a famine. I will not surrender to some aliens who think they can starve us. Across the planet, humans adapted. Farmers planted extra crops. Fishermen worked through the night. Factories switched from electronics to food preservation. Families shared meals and reduced waste. After 2 months, the Council's blockade had achieved nothing. The humans were not starving. They were not desperate. They were annoyed about rising food prices and wrote angry letters to their local representatives. Vorn received the reports with growing frustration. They should be dying. They should be begging for mercy. High Chancellor, an advisor said carefully, humans evolved on a planet with limited resources. They have survived famines before. Many famines. They know how to endure, and we will not starve them. We will crush them. Vorn turned to Fleet Admiral Torek. Prepare for direct assault. Overwhelm them with numbers. Torek hesitated. He had seen human tactics firsthand. He had watched his ships burn. But orders were orders. The Council's combined fleet moved toward the Proxima Line, humanity's main defensive position. 15,000 ships against 3,000 human vessels. 5-1 odds in the Council's favor. Admiral Han Yuna watched the enemy approach from her flagship's bridge. Captain Park Tae stood beside her, nervous but trying not to show it. Ma'am, he said, we are significantly outnumbered. Yes, our standard weapons may not be enough. I know. Han pressed a button on her console. Dr. Kim, are you there? A face appeared on screen. Dr. Kim Hannah was a small woman with messy hair and dark circles under her eyes. She looked annoyed. What is it? I was in the middle of an experiment. The Council has sent 15,000 ships. We need your special weapons. Hannah sighed loudly. I told you people, those were just projects I made for fun. They are not properly tested. Will they work? Probably. Maybe. I think so. Hannah scratched her head. Fine. I will send the activation codes. But if anything explodes, it is not my fault. Park Tae looked at Han. Special weapons? Dr. Kim is our chief weapons scientist. She makes things in her spare time. Han smiled slightly. Interesting things. The human fleet activated systems that had never been used in combat. Ships began to shimmer with strange energy. New weapons unfolded from hidden compartments. The very air around the fleet seemed to bend. What is happening? Torek stared at his sensors. Their ships are changing. I am detecting energy signatures I have never seen before. Unknown weapon systems detected, his officer reported. Gravity distortions. Spatial anomalies. Admiral, Their missiles are... I cannot explain this. Their missiles are ignoring our shields. They are passing through them like they do not exist. The battle began. Human ships flickered and disappeared, reappearing behind council lines. Weapons fired that bent space itself, crushing ships into metal balls. Missiles appeared inside enemy vessels, bypassing all defenses. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Park Tae watched the destruction with wide eyes. How? How did Dr. Kim create these weapons? Han shrugged. She said she was bored during graduate school. Bored? Humans handle boredom poorly, Captain. Some write poetry. Some play games. Dr. Kim invented weapons that break the laws of physics. Han watched another council ship explode. Everyone has hobbies. 6 hours later, the council fleet retreated. They had lost 70% of their ships. The humans had lost less than 200. Torek sat in his damaged flagship, surrounded by dying systems and injured crew. He had fought in 12 wars. He had never experienced defeat like this. Admiral, his communication officer said weakly, "We intercepted a human transmission during the battle." What did it say? One of their pilots was asking if the battle would end soon. He said he was missing his child's birthday party. Torek closed his eyes. A species that worried about birthday parties while destroying fleets. A species that invented superweapons because they were bored. He finally understood. The humans were not just dangerous because of their weapons or their tactics. They were dangerous because war, to them, was simply another problem to solve. Another inconvenience to endure. Another thing that got in the way of their normal lives. They did not fear war. They were annoyed by it, and that, Torek realized, made them the most terrifying species in the galaxy. On the human flagship, Han received a message from Sergeant Li Wu on the ground forces. "Admiral, we have captured an alien soldier. She wants to talk." "What does she want?" "She says she is a historian. She wants to understand us." Oh, paused. "She asked why we do not fear death." Han considered this for a moment. "What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth. We fear death. We just fear boredom more." Han smiled. "Good answer, Sergeant. Good answer." The war had lasted 8 months. 8 months of battles, blockades, and failures. The Galactic Council had lost over half its fleet. 12 species had already withdrawn from the Alliance. Vorn's position grew weaker by the day, but humanity had not yet attacked. They had defended their territory. They had destroyed enemy fleets, but they had never pushed forward. Never invaded Council space. Never sought revenge until now. Admiral Han Yuna stood before her officers in the war room. A star map covered the entire wall, showing Council territory, human space, and the border between them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Han said, "for 8 months, we have played defense. We have protected our colonies. We have destroyed their ships when they attacked. We have been patient." She pressed a button, and red arrows appeared on the map. "That ends today." Captain Park Tae studied the plan. Operation Quiet Morning. Simultaneous strikes on 12 council systems. We hit their supply lines, their communication hubs, and their shipyards. Not their civilian populations. Not their homes. Just their ability to make war. One officer raised her hand. "Ma'am, why Quiet Morning? Is there significance to the name?" Han shrugged. "I could not think of anything dramatic. Does it matter?" The operation began at midnight, Earth time. Human fleets appeared in 12 systems simultaneously. They struck fast, hit hard, and disappeared before Council forces could respond. Shipyards burned. Supply stations exploded. Communication arrays went silent. In the Council capital, Vorn received the reports with growing horror. His war room was chaos. Officers shouted updates. Screens flashed with damage assessments. Everything was falling apart. They're everywhere. An advisor screamed. "How are they everywhere?" Vorn had no answer. While the Council scrambled, Ambassador Choi Nari sat in her office on Earth, sipping tea. Her screen showed an incoming transmission. She accepted it. 3 alien faces appeared. Ambassadors from species that had joined the Council's war. They looked frightened. Ambassador Choi once said, "We wish to discuss peace." Nari set down her tea. "I am listening. We were told humans were dangerous. We were told you would conquer the galaxy, but you have not attacked our homeworlds. You have not harmed our civilians." "Why?" Nari smiled gently. "Because we are not conquerors. We never wanted this war. We just wanted to live our lives. Then why fight so hard?" "Because you gave us no choice." Nari leaned forward. "Let me tell you something about humans. We do not enjoy war. We do not seek glory. But when someone threatens our families, our homes, our way of life, we respond, and we do not stop until the threat is gone." The ambassadors exchanged worried looks. Is there any way to end this?" Nari nodded. "Withdraw your forces. Leave human space. Convince your council to accept peace. Do this, and we will have no quarrel with you. And if we cannot convince the council," Nari's smile faded, "then I suggest you distance yourselves from them, because humanity has not really started trying yet." The transmission ended. The ambassadors sat in stunned silence. Vorn refused to accept defeat. He gathered his remaining loyal commanders and presented a new plan. "We have one chance," he said. "One weapon that can turn this war around." Fleet Admiral Torek looked at the schematics on the screen. His blood ran cold. "The planet killer?" "High Chancellor, that weapon has been banned for 10,000 years. The Council itself declared it too dangerous to use. Council is falling apart." Vorn shouted. "Half our allies have abandoned us. Our fleets are destroyed. If we do not act now, humanity will grow stronger. They will spread. They will eventually come for us all. But civilians are acceptable losses." Vorn's eyes burned with desperation. "We target their agricultural world. New Eden. 4 million humans. We destroy it completely. Show them what happens when they defy the Council." Torek wanted to argue. He wanted to refuse. But Vorn held power, and power demanded obedience. The planet killer was deployed. New Eden was a beautiful world. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Rivers sparkled under twin suns. 4 million humans lived there, most of them farmers and their families. When the warning came, it's 6 hours. 6 hours to evacuate a planet. Governor Beek Somi took command. She was a grandmother, 63 years old, with hands that had worked soil her entire life. "Every ship," she ordered. "Every shuttle. Every transport. Everything that can fly. Load the children first, then the elderly, then everyone else." The evacuation was chaos. Families rushed to landing pads. Ships filled beyond capacity. Pilots flew missions until their fuel ran out, then landed to refuel and flew again. Sergeant Li Wu arrived with a military transport. He had not been ordered to come. He had simply gotten on his ship and flown. "Sergeant." A young mother cried, clutching her baby. "There is no more room." Wu looked at his ship. It was full. He looked at the mother. He looked at the sky, where the planet killer was descending. "Make room," he said to his soldiers. Everyone squeezed together. "We take as many as we can carry." They loaded 30 more people onto a ship designed for 50. The engines screamed in protest. The pilot looked at Wu. "Sergeant, we are over capacity. We might not make it to orbit." Wu strapped himself in. "Then we die trying. Go." The ship lifted off. Behind them, New Eden began to burn. 80% of the population escaped. 300,000 did not. On her flagship, Admiral Han Yuna received the news. For the first time in the war, her calm expression cracked. Her hands gripped the console until her knuckles turned white. "They targeted farmers," she said quietly. "They targeted families. They targeted children." Captain Park Tae had never seen her like this. "Ma'am?" Han turned to face her crew. Her eyes were cold, hard. Something dangerous burned behind them. "I was going to end this war quickly. I was going to give them a chance to surrender with dignity." She straightened her uniform. "That has changed, ma'am. What are your orders?" "Contact all fleet commanders. Contact the ground forces. Contact every ship, every soldier, every pilot who wears our uniform." Han's voice was ice. "The Council wanted our attention. Now they have it." Within hours, human forces struck the Council's primary shipyard, then their military academies. Then Vorn's personal flagship, no civilian targets, clean, surgical, devastating observer. Mira watched the reports from her hiding place on a neutral station. She had fled Council space when the war turned. Now she recorded everything, knowing history was being written in fire and blood. Then her journal. She wrote, "I have studied many species. Some fight for territory, some fight for resources, some fight because they enjoy it." She paused, remembering the images of New Eden burning. Humans fight because someone made them care. They were content to defend their borders. They were willing to accept peace. They did not want to destroy us. Her hand trembled as she wrote the final words. "We should not have made them care. We should not have hurt their families. Now they are angry, and an angry human is the most dangerous thing in the universe." Across the galaxy, Council species began to understand what they had. Awakened, the war was no longer about territory or power. It was about consequences, and humanity always collected its debts. The human fleet arrived at the Council capital at dawn. 8,000 warships filled the sky above the alien world. They blocked out the stars. They cast shadows across entire continents. It was the largest human military force ever assembled in one place, and they did not fire. Admiral Pei Hyun stood on her bridge, watching the planet below. She could destroy it. She had the power. She had the justification. After New Eden, no one would blame her, but that was not why humans fought. "Open a channel," Han ordered. "Broadcast to the entire planet." Her face appeared on every screen in Council space. "People of the Galactic Council," she said. "I am Admiral Han Yuna of the United Earth Fleet. Your government declared war on humanity. Your ships attacked our colonies. Your weapons killed our people." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We did not want this war. We did not start this war, but we will end it." In his palace, Vorn watched the transmission with wild eyes. His guards stood around him, nervous. His advisors had all fled. "Lies," he muttered. "All lies. We will not surrender. We will fight to the last." The door opened. Fleet Admiral Torek walked in, flanked by soldiers. "High Chancellor Vorn," Torek said. "You are under arrest for war crimes against the people of New Eden and crimes against the Galactic Council itself." Vorn stared at him. "You dare?" "I am the High Chancellor." "You were the High Chancellor." Torek nodded to his soldiers. "Take him." As Vorn was dragged away, Torek activated his communicator. "Admiral Han, this is Fleet Admiral Torek of the Galactic Council, or what remains of it. I am listening. High Chancellor Vorn has been arrested. His government has fallen. On behalf of all Council species, I ask for peace." Torek's voice cracked. "Please, no more death. No more destruction. We surrender." Han was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Peace is acceptable." The negotiations took place on a neutral station between human and Council space. Ambassador Choi Nari represented humanity. She sat across from representatives of 47 species, all of them defeated, all of them afraid. "Our terms are simple," Nari said, placing a document on the table. "First, recognition of all human territory, no future challenges to our borders." The representatives nodded quickly. "Second, reparations for the damage caused by this war. The amount is listed in the document. It is fair and reasonable." More nods. "Third and most important," Nari smiled, "cultural exchange programs between human and Council species." The representatives looked confused. "Cultural exchange?" One asked. "You want to share culture?" "Yes. Students, artists, teachers, scientists. We want your people to visit our worlds and our people to visit yours." Nari leaned back in her chair. "You started this war because you did not understand us. You feared what you did not know? We want to fix that. You could demand anything, another representative said. Territory, resources, technology. Why do you ask for this? Because humans do not want an empire. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in peace. Nari looked at each representative in turn, and peace requires understanding. If you know us, truly know us, you will never fear us again. The peace treaty was signed that day. Observer Mira published her research 1 month later. Her document, A Study of Humanity, became the most read text in galactic history. Humans evolved on a world that wanted to kill them, she wrote. Predators hunted them. Diseases ravaged them. The climate itself tried to destroy them. They should have died 1,000 times. Instead, they adapted. They built tools. They built shelters. They built civilizations. And when those civilizations went to war with each other, they adapted again. They became stronger, harder, more resilient. But here is what we fail to understand. Humans do not want war. They do not enjoy suffering. They do not seek to dominate. They simply refuse to surrender. They refuse to give up. They refuse to die. When we attacked them, we expected them to panic. Instead, they were annoyed. When we blockaded their colonies, we expected them to starve. Instead, they farmed. When we destroyed their planet, we expected them to despair. Instead, they became angry. Humans are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest. They are not the most advanced. But they are the most stubborn. And in a universe full of dangers, stubbornness is the greatest weapon of all. Captain Parkte finally understood his people. He had grown up in a peaceful time on a peaceful colony. He had never known war. He had never experienced hardship. When the conflict began, he could not understand why his commanders were so calm. Now he knew humans did not fear war, because they had already survived worse. They did not panic because panic was useless. They adapted, overcame, and moved forward. It was written in their blood, carved into their bones, woven into their very souls. They were survivors. That was their identity. That was their strength. Sergeant Li Wu retired to a farm colony. Not New Eden, which was still being rebuilt, but a similar world, with similar fields and similar skies. He planted crops. He raised animals. He watched sunsets. Sometimes late at night he thought about the war, about the soldiers he had lost, about the families he had saved, about the enemies he had killed, but mostly he thought about the future, about the children who would grow up in peace, about the worlds that would never know invasion, about the galaxy that had finally learned to leave humanity alone. Admiral Han took her first vacation in 12 years. She went to a beach on Earth, sat in a chair, and watched the waves. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Captain Tay. Ma'am, there's a diplomatic situation developing near the outer colonies. Some minor species are testing our borders. Should I alert the fleet? Han looked at the ocean. She thought about the war, about the battles, about the endless meetings and strategies and decisions. Then she turned off her communicator and closed her eyes. The minor species could wait. Dr. Kim Hanna returned to her laboratory. She had already forgotten about the war. Her mind was focused on new experiments, new discoveries, new weapons that she would hopefully never need to use. Dr. Kim, her assistant, said, "You have a message from the Defense Ministry? They want to discuss your gravity distortion technology. Tell them I am busy. They said it is urgent." Everything is urgent to them. Hannah adjusted her equipment. "I have important work to do. Real work, not weapons." Her assistant sighed. "What are you working on?" "Dimensional folding. If I can crack the equations, we could fold space itself. Travel anywhere in the universe instantly." Hannah smiled. Now that would be interesting. Somewhere in the outer reaches of the galaxy, a young alien diplomat met with observer Myra. The diplomat was nervous. Her species wanted to establish trade with humanity, but they were afraid. "How do we approach them?" the diplomat asked. "How do we avoid making the same mistakes the council made?" Mira thought for a long time before answering. "Be honest. Be respectful. Do not threaten them. Do not lie to them. Do not treat them as enemies unless you want them to become enemies. That is all? No, there is one more thing. Mira leaned forward. Never, ever give them a reason to unite against you. Divided, humans fight each other and accomplish amazing things. United, she paused. United, they would conquer the universe and complain about how boring it was. The diplomat nodded slowly. I understand. I hope so. For your sake. For all our sakes. Years later, a transmission from Earth reached the Galactic Archives. It was a message from a human child to an alien pen pal. Dear Mora, the child wrote, my teacher says we were at war with aliens. I did not notice. Mom says it was a long time ago and I should not worry about it. I think she is right. Wars are boring anyway. I am sending you pictures of my dog. His name is Bori. He likes to chase birds and sleep in the sun. Do you have dogs on your planet? If not, you should get some. They are very good. Right back soon. Your friend Yuna the Galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity was not a threat to be feared. They were not conquerors to be stopped. They were simply people who wanted to live their lives in peace. But if you threatened that peace, if you attacked their homes and hurt their families, they would respond, not because they enjoyed war, not because they sought revenge, but because survival was what they did. It was the only thing they had ever known, and they were very,